Alright, what's going on everyone out there on YouTube? NES Ruler, and welcome to a brand new review. And this time around we'll be checking out a film that was sent to me to review by Arrow Films, and you can pick this up right now on 4K at all your favorite online retailers. And I even think you could go into Best Buy right now and pick this up. I'm pretty sure I've seen it there the last time I was in there. So if you guys want to go to a physical store and support physical media, you could go into Best Buy and pick this up. And it's a film from 1994 released by Sony, and it is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So, I've never seen this movie, but over the years I've heard a lot of people talk about this film, and I kind of feel like it's a movie that has a love or hate relationship with its audience. Either you really enjoy this movie or you really hate it. And I've never seen it, but just going off the bat, just by watching it, I've never read the original novel by Mary Shelley, but I could just tell that this film is most definitely a more faithful adaptation of the novel compared to the 1931 version that we all know and love. Of course, starring Mr. Boris Karloff. So, going into that, I kind of went in with it with an open mind to watch it in not the sense that we're so used to with the original film, but instead with a more open mind. And if you guys have listened to me over the years on the 22 Shots of Moods and Horror podcast, you know I'm not the biggest fan of period pieces. They're not my favorite kind of films, but, you know, whenever I watch one, I try to go into it with an open mind. And like I said, this is definitely a more faithful adaptation. So basically, this film, the first hour, we follow Victor Frankenstein as he becomes the mad scientist that we know. It's a lot of backstory about his family life and his upbringing and his father and his mother and all this other stuff, and him bringing in this sister, if you want to call it, whose parents died from scarlet fever, so he becomes a stepsister, and then there's a whole love triangle. It's very, very weird. But the first hour of the movie, like I said, is basically just Victor Frankenstein's story to where he ends up creating his monster. And the monster ends up being played by Robert De Niro. Now, this is a very different Frankenstein monster than what we, of course, know from the 1931 version. And I feel like maybe that's where people get lost on this film, because he's so different in this movie compared to that film. He's much more intelligent and much more human in this movie than he is in the original film. And it's definitely something that I can understand it taking time to get used to. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I don't think De Niro's performance was ultimately the best in this movie, in my opinion. I feel like it probably wasn't the best casting. I feel like they probably could have cast somebody else a little bit different. I just don't think De Niro's face really has that interesting of a look to play a Frankenstein monster. But like I said, it has all the beats of the original Frankenstein film that we know and love, but it just has a different tone to it with its monster. He talks, he reads, it has all this other stuff that it does throughout the film. And I could see why people don't like it, because if you're not familiar with the original novel, I feel like we're so adapted to the original movie that, we're so adapted to the original film that people aren't used to seeing it presented in this kind of way. So, I get that. I just found this film, the first hour of this movie, is rather dull and boring, to be completely honest with you. I didn't find too much enjoyment. Then when the Frankenstein monster ends up showing up, it starts to pick up a little bit. The score is really, really fantastic. I definitely think that's the highlight of this movie. The score is really, really good. And some of the effects are really, really good. There's this awesome fire scene, a fire stunt at the end of the film that is really, really great. It looks really awesome. I always try and appreciate fire stunts in movies because they're so dangerous, and when they look good, they look freaking good. And in this movie, at the end, it looks really, really solid. A really long, drawn-out fire scene, and it's really, really good. So like I said, the last hour of this movie is more fast-paced and enjoyable than the first half of the film. But overall, I still wasn't like the biggest fan of it, to be completely honest. When I go back and watch it again, I mean, not for a long time, but compared to, let's say, Coppola's Dracula, it's definitely not as good as that film. But, like I said, it has a similar score as that movie. That movie has an amazing, amazing score as well. So, you know, these adaptations of classic Universal films that we know and love have some really amazing scores. So I appreciate it in that sense. So let's talk about the transfer. The transfer is good. It has HDR10, very similar to most of Arrow's releases. If you guys watched my review of 12 Monkeys, you know I said it wasn't the best transfer. This film definitely has a more natural look to it. It definitely is an upgrade. It's a very dark movie, so having that Dolby Vision and the HDR and the dark scenes really, really boosts it up, in my opinion, compared to the 1080p Blu-ray. You know, when you get that HDR, it's really, really important when you get to the darker blacks. That's really where you see the biggest difference in 1080p to 2160p is in the blacks. So considering this movie is so dark, it really, really helps having that. And a whole boatload of new features. Arrow really went out on this release. A whole bunch of new interviews with so many cast members. I'm not going to list them all, but the makeup designer, costume designer, and a new documentary about the story. But what's the most coolest feature on this release, and kind of worth the purchase itself, is that this has the original 1910 Edison Frankenstein on it. And it is the Library of Congress's new 2K scan of this, and it looks great. I mean, of course, it's 112 years old, so there's only one original negative left of it, and of course it's in the Library of Congress. So it being the only print left of this film, it looks really, really good. The Library of Congress did a really good job, and that is definitely the coolest feature on this release, is the original 1910 version. You guys know I love silent films. I'm starting to build a pretty big collection of them. I really, really love early cinema and how filmmakers had to learn how to adapt and learn things on the go, especially like between 1900 and 1910, those kind of movies. You really see them starting to learn how to tell a story with the new medium and things like that. And the original 1910 Frankenstein is quite interesting. If you guys haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's short. It's only 15 minutes. It doesn't do anything groundbreaking, but it's still really, really cool that this is on this release. And the packaging, as always, get your nice thick case from Arrow, and you get your usual booklet. Very similar to most of Arrow releases, 35-page color booklet talking about the movie and all that other stuff, the history. Really interesting read. If you guys like booklets, I highly recommend you read it. So, what do I think of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein in conclusion? It's okay. I'm glad I watched it once and I finally saw it. Like I said before, I don't think I'm going to end up going back and watching it again. But if you guys are a fan of this movie, this is definitely the package to get right now. And Arrow, another good release, very good with the features and everything like that. So that is my review of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Again, you can pick this up right now on 4K at all your favorite online retailers and even at Best Buy. So thank you again, guys, for watching this video. If you guys like it, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/NESRuler22. And I hope everybody's doing well, and we got a few more reviews coming for you guys, so stay tuned for that. And I shall talk to you guys soon. See ya.